Greetings from that city on the bay, and once again, the mongoose is on the loose. I've always been a lover of spiritual books. Today I'd like to discuss a very revealing and prophetic passage from the Holy Quran, which is verse 18 from Surah 21. Let me read it to you from the English translation. Nay, we hurl the truth against falsehood, and it knocks out its brain, and behold, falsehood doth perish. Ah, woe be to you for the false things ye ascribe to us. Now, before I go into the prophetic ramifications of this, I'd like to explain a little bit on how the mainstream media in the U.S. operates. As anyone who's lived in the United States for a while knows, the United States is no longer a Christian nation. Forces that are fiercely anti-Christian have taken over the banks, the media, the education system, and most of the important control positions in American society. These same forces perceive Muslims as a major thorn in their side, and they, for example, did everything to propagate lies that led to the slaughter of millions of Muslims throughout the Middle East and Central Asia. They are at this time working even harder to destroy American patriotism along with its Christian foundation. In fact, they are obsessed with doing so because they have been plotting and planning to destroy Christianity as well as Islam for quite some time. Their main purpose, however, is to control the population by creating a left-right paradigm that keeps the population sufficiently divided so that it cannot effectively unite and win against the forces of the Antichrist, which now control most of the world. The forces of the Antichrist perceive the citizenry as cattle. When cowboys would herd cattle, they would have dogs running on the left and right sides of the cattle to keep the cattle in line and moving in the direction they want the cattle to go. This direction is called the mainstream, and the executives who control the corporate media structure are the herders, and the reporters, broadcasters, and commentators are the dogs who flank the cattle, keeping them within a controlled left-right paradigm. When I use the term dog, I am being symbolic. The reason that I point this out is that I don't wish to insult or offend the canine population. Now, this is where we begin to see the profound truth that the great prophet Muhammad conveyed in verse 18 of Surah 21. If you are a Muslim, you may be wondering why I'm speaking so much about Christianity. As you know, the prophet Muhammad respected the prophets of the Bible as a lineage of genuine prophets, of which he is the final prophet. I tend to agree with the validity of this lineage, so there is an intertwinement here. But I will get more into the Muslim aspect later in this presentation. But remember, this is about the United States, which is not a Muslim country. I apologize for any initial confusion. As I mentioned earlier, the people who truly control the United States, as well as its elected officials, are fierce anti-Christians, and because of their obvious hate for Christianity and its driving principles, it has succeeded in compromising itself in many ways. For one thing, in their control over the education system, they have created a school staff situation where something like 89% of the administrations and teaching staff in the U.S. identify with the left. Therefore, most of your reporters, broadcasters, commentators, and media executives will logically lean left as they come out of the universities and occupy media positions. Now, what has happened here is quite ironic. The American people, who are the cattle to be herded, have 30 dogs on the left side and about 3 dogs on the right side. The end result is that the abundance of media dogs on the left side are causing much of the cattle to move toward the right side. The exploding patriot movement in the U.S., which includes the militia movement, the Tea Party movement, the 911 truthers, the birthers, etc., has put them in a desperate and defensive position. Remember what Surah 21 verse 18 says. Nay, we hurl the truth against falsehood, and it knocks out its brain. On the other hand, American citizens are the herd that is, as I mentioned earlier, moving to the right as a result of an excessive and arrogant left that ignored the most basic cattle guiding principle, which is to have equal force on both sides of the cattle being herded. There's not enough dogs on the right side to control the influx of cattle moving away from the abundance of dogs on the left side. The end result is that the cattle are starting to think for themselves. The forces of the Antichrist have infiltrated the conservative media, but there's just not enough of them. The truth about 911, the truth about Obama's birthplace, the truth about his real name, which is Barry Soetoro, the truth about banker corruption leading to a worldwide economic disaster, and many, many truths that weren't supposed to go mainstream are now all over the place. The media keeps on trying to play the race card and use communist Saul-Alinsky media tactics, but it's not working like it used to, especially the race card. They have become like a magician who only knows one card trick, so he keeps doing the same card trick over and over again. After a while, the audience figures the trick out, but the magician keeps trying the same trick again and again because he doesn't know anything else. Because the forces of the Antichrist stack the media and education system with brainwashed students who are given no choice but to be constantly bombarded with leftist PC tripe, the media's attempt to demonize Muslims has led to a powerful pro-Muslim student movement in the U.S. and Canada. This is definitely not in the best interest of the Antichrist establishment, which is very pro-Israel, and had nothing to say when white phosphorus was dumped all over innocent Palestinians. If Palestinians dumped white phosphorus all over innocent Israelis, the Antichrist mainstream media would be all over the story with gory photographs, and commentator upon commentator would be falling all over themselves condemning the attack, and they would be calling it terrorism. Although Surah 21 verse 18 refers primarily to Muslims when it says, "Woe be to you for the false things ye ascribe to us," my argument is that the same wise principle also applies to the constant media and educational system attacks on Christianity and patriotism in the United States. The verse also said, "We hurl the truth against falsehood, and it knocks out its brain, and behold, falsehood doth perish." This verse really says it all.